Good morning. All right. Get all my technology coordinated here. Good morning, Miss Kendra. Good morning, Miss Stacy. Hope everybody can hear me okay. I think I've got everything working. Coordinating. Yes. Exciting morning. Even if you don't own a overlocker or a serger, you may still find this informational and fun and kind of see what one step or one technique that an overlocker can do. And if you have an overlocker and you're afraid to use it, now's the time to start learning. So let's get them out of the closet, dust them off. We can see if we can figure out how to thread them, because that's always everybody's biggest issue, is how do I thread a serger? We will gladly help you with that. Yes, some are a little easier than others, but we do have some today, new ones, that are much easier to thread. We have 3 new air thread sergers. We have the Burnett B64 that air threads, and we have the Bernina L850 and the Bernina L890. So if threading is your issue, we do have a way to solve it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hear and feel all the buzz in the air outside coming in today with all the possibility of snow in the forecast. And it looks like it's going to happen. If it doesn't, I'm going to be one very sad person. But I'm sure everybody will be running to the grocery store this morning. I'll wait and go late tonight after everybody's in bed and not at the grocery store. So we will hold off on that. Good morning. All right, let's get started this morning. So we're going to work this morning on how to blind stitch with a serger. Okay, and so blind stitching with a serger is going to be a little different than a blind hem that you can do with a sewing machine. Okay, so now granted, I am using very contrasting thread here today. I am not using any sort of matching thread, but blind stitching with a serger would look something like this. Okay, you can see the little bite marks, things along that lines. It's almost an in trend right now with athletic wear and athleisure wear for hemming, things along that, kind of in a semi-exposed hem, but you get to see what it looks like, as well as at the same time it finishes the back edge. And this can be done for both cotton and knits. It's hard to see on that one, but there is the ability there for knits as well. So let me see if I can't darken up the screen a little. There we go. That may be a little bit better for you to see. So let's talk about what we use to blind stitch. And the first thing we need to do is get the right foot, okay? The correct foot. Now, today I'm using the L460 from Bernina. These same feet exist for all of the sergers that are out there, you know, from Burnett to the Bernina 1150, 1200, 1300, that type of thing. It's just the newer machines, the L450, L460, the new 8 series. We actually have 2 blind stitch feet. Okay, we have a 0.5 millimeter and we have a 1.0 millimeter foot. And so this has to do with the distance. I'm trying to see if you can see. It's hard to tell, but there's just a little bit of difference in, and we're talking millimeters, so it's very, very minute. But the feet are labeled from 0.5 to a 1. These tape guides, this guide here is what we will follow along the edge of the foot. And they are adjustable, so they can be moved in and out depending upon the thickness of your fabric, how much of the stitch you want to see, and things like that. So they are very adjustable feet in that aspect. Okay. Now, the next thing that we want to do is, one, you would want to match your thread. Okay. Well, obviously I'm not going to match my thread because I want you to be able to see it, but we need to fold up the hem. And if I was doing, let's put the foot on. So I'm going to start on a cotton fabric. So I'm going to put my presser foot on here. You just snap on and off with a push of a button back here. So once you have your foot on, let's get our fabric set and then we'll talk about the stitch that we're going to use. I'm going to fold up my hem and I'm going to iron it, okay, so that I have a nice crease here. It'll just give you a nicer finish, 1, and 2, it's going to give you a hem that you know is straight. Because if you're trying to fold as you're serging, you're not probably going to be super happy with the end result if you don't stay 100% straight, okay? So typically we would fold up on the hem, and then we take and we fold back, okay? So this is the right side of my fabric. Here's my hem fold, and then I'm gonna fold back, okay? And this amount here, I'm actually going to cut off, okay? All right, so I'm going to, well, I'm too excited. Let's talk about the stitch that we're going to use. For woven fabric, I'm going to use a narrow 3-thread overlock, okay, on the machine. So when we say narrow, narrow is going to mean that we're going to use the right needle, okay? Right needle is closest to the loopers to make the stitch, so there's a small space, so that's why you get narrow. And then if we were going to do a wide per se, we'd only be using the left needle. That way the distance between the looper and the needle where the stitch is made is bigger or wider, okay? So we're going to use the right needle. 3 threads means that we're going to use our upper and lower looper and 1 needle, okay? So there's our 3 threads. Now, if you remember, your upper and lower loopers are the red and the blue that are on the machine here at the top. I'm going to thread them, and remember, there is an order to which you thread a serger, right? And if you know us, we always sing and dance for you, right? In honor of Miss Casey, we have upper looper, lower looper, right needle, left, okay? And so that's the order in which we thread a serger, okay? So upper looper is blue in the Bernina world, so we thread that first. Then we thread the lower looper, which is red. So blue like the sky means upper, red like the dirt means lower, okay? And then your right needle is green, and then we thread the right needle. The setup on the machine, and I would always test this on the fabric that you're going to do to make sure that your tension is right, everything. So I tested it this morning, so we should be good with my right needle tension at 2.5, my upper looper at 4, my lower looper at 4, okay? And then we're going to make sure that our roll hem lever on the machine is, let me arrow down here so you can see again. the roll hem lever is the lever that switches you from overlock to roll hem. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that that is pushed back at overlock. Okay, my cutting width on this machine is gonna be at 6. My stitch length over on the right-hand side of the machine is going to be at a 4. So I want a wide stitch length or a long stitch length. That way the stitches are a little farther apart and they're not so on top of each other. Okay, and then my differential feed is gonna be at 1 on a 460, or it will be at N on some other Berninas, which would be normal or neutral. Okay, I'm gonna get this guide that's on this foot so that it is just to the right of the needle. Okay, and you will make adjustments once you get your fabric underneath, because this guide, we want this needle to just stitch into the fold of this fabric. The more it stitches into the fabric, the more of the thread you're going to see. Okay, so I'm going to get started and then I'll make an adjustment. Okay, so we're going to get that out of the way. Come in here. I'm going to butt right up next to the fold of my hem is right next to this guide that's here. I'm right in front of the knife. I'm gonna take my shoe off here before I start. I'm gonna start stitching. And I'm gonna make sure that my needle, as I start stitching into the fabric, is going right into the fold. Okay? And I'm just going to guide it. All right, and then we're just going to flatten it out. Kind of pull it. I didn't bring a iron back here with me this morning, but pull it out and iron it so that this is what you would see here. You can see that, okay, on a lined hem. The back side, okay, is going to look like this. You're going to be all hemmed. It's going to be held in place, and your item would be hemmed. Now, I don't do a lot of hemming with my serger. I prefer it a little more invisible. But this here reminds me a lot more of a home deck hem. You would see this on a lot of like curtain shears and things like that. That's where I use this type of stitching. It's definitely more on a home deck side than I do on a garment side, but it just depends upon the garment that I was looking for, and it's not the end of the world. And if this thread matched, you would never see it, okay? And so that is how we blind hem on a serger with cotton or woven fabric, okay? I didn't even break a sweat, okay? So let's talk about how we blind hem on a serger with knit fabric, okay? So with knit fabric, I'm actually gonna change over to the 1.0 millimeter foot, okay? It's a little bit thicker fabric, my knit is, so I wanna have a little bit more space. I'm gonna move the guide on the foot all the way over so that it is flush with the cutting blade that's on the serger. So this is all the way over, okay? I have my knit folded the same way as I folded the cotton, okay? So my hem is folded. There's my hem. No, I'm good. I don't need an iron. Thanks, Mom. And then you have, I'm gonna fold back over top of. So this is gonna be the seam allowance that I cut off, and this is where my hem is going to be stitched. Okay. I'm again gonna slide this over here, up and under, so that I'm back at the blade and my guide is right in this fold, touching the fold. Okay, I'm going to try to move this around so you can maybe see a little bit better, but also not look at my hands the entire time. We're going to look at using a flat lock. Okay, so we're going to do a flat lock on this knit, which is very, very common in athletic wear, okay, and athleisure, as we call it nowadays. You see that a lot of times they use the flat lock to attach the cuffs and the bands to a lot of sweat jackets, sweatshirts, hemming, things along that line. So we're going to switch over to a flat lock. So going from a narrow 3-thread overlock to a flat lock is just a matter of adjusting some settings on the machine. So I'm going to drop the tension on my right needle is going to be the same at 2.5. My upper looper is going to stay at 4, but my lower looper is going to go to 7. Okay. We're going to leave everything else the same. So all we did is make one adjustment to the lower looper setting. Now with knit, you're going to find that as it starts to sew, it may want to, or even with cotton, as it gets back to the needle, that it wants to kind of bunch up in here. So you're going to want to pause and raise the presser foot and then lower it down again to get everything underneath of there, moving. We're just going to serge, and we're going to make sure that the needle again is going right into the fold of the fabric. Now with a flat lock, we want the thread to be sticking up and off the side, because the way that a flat lock is going to work, when we pull it, okay, when we pull this, you're going to see it, okay, and we want to see it, and that is the goal of a flat lock, is to get everything nice and flat. And again, if you match your thread to your fabric, it's going to be pretty invisible. Okay, so a flat lock again is something that we use a lot to attach things together. It also could be decorative. So you can see a little bit better. Okay, so there's the flat lock. Really, like, this is a piece of sweatshirt material, sweatshirt knit, and we did it with contrasting thread. So it gives a really nice hem. It gives a little bit more detail. Okay. So that is how you hem a knit. Okay. You can also hem the knit with the standard 3-thread overlock, but the flat lock has a little bit more stretch to it than the narrow overlock. So it's kind of why a lot of times we go with the flat lock on knit versus a 3-thread overlock. Okay. Now, the next thing that you can do, the unconventional use for a blind hem foot, is going to be a pin tuck. Okay. So here are some decorative pin tucks that were done. These pin tucks here were done with a thicker thread. Pearl Crown rayon is what this pin tuck was done with. I'm actually we're going to change on the machine. I'm going to switch out the upper looper for a textured thread. Okay. And so let's see if I can get this You can maybe see this. So this here is what we call Seriflock. It's hard to see, but it is the Metler version of woolly nylon. Okay, for those that have been searching for a while. This is textured, it's fluffy. Okay, so as it goes through the machine, it's pulled taut and it's real fine, but when it relaxes, it fluffs out. Okay, and fills in. Gives you a nice soft flat lock, soft pin tuck. We use it to roll hem with, which is what this is. It's a roll hem with decorative. And so I also use this a lot in children's garments, especially if they are sensitive to itchy and scratchy. This just gives a real nice soft feel to it. Now I'm not going to rethread the machine. I'm actually going to cut the upper looper thread, and then I'm going to tie a knot. Okay, and I'm going to pull it through. Okay, I'm actually going to stitch it through. And I can see it. It's now in my seam. So I've rethreaded that looper here without having to rethread the machine. So that's the quick way to rethread. If you're not into rethreading your machine, tie knots and pull through. Okay. I am going to, again, I want to pull this guide here so that is a little bit closer to the right needle. Okay. I have some fabric here that I have folded and ironed a crease in it. We are going to get rid of our cutting knife. So I'm going to disengage my knife because we don't need it for this. We're not going to be cutting anything. We're literally using the guide of the blind hen foot to guide us in the same position, and we want that needle, okay, to be going right onto the edge of the fabric. Okay, so you can make adjustments as needed. We're also going to set up for a 3-thread rolled hem, which means I'm just going to make some adjustments to my looper tensions. I'm going to pull my lever here towards me for roll hemming. I'm going to change my cutting width, which won't make a difference. We're just getting it out of the way. Roll hem, and then I've got one. And then we're going to stitch. Stitch length down a little bit. Making sure that you're keeping the fabric right next to the edge of the blade. And then you can see your roll hem. It's really soft because of that texture that's to it. It'll probably take my lower looper a little bit more to pull that over, but for the most part, from the right side of this pin tuck, it looks nice. Okay, and then you could fold again, however close. I did press my folds one so that I could make sure that I was one straight, as well as you also want to make sure that you sew them all in the same direction. Okay, well, that's not the right stitch length, but that's okay. A 3-thread roll hem has a right and wrong side to it. Okay, there is a difference, so you want to make sure that when you sew them all in the same direction on the machine, because otherwise if you sewed the other direction, it's the wrong side is going to be, the right side is going to be the other direction. Okay. So that is a pin tuck. Okay. Literally, we're just taking a little bite of fabric. Can be very easily done. Let's see if you can see right here. Okay. So that's a pin tuck with a little bit wider, larger decorative thread that's there. And oops, these are pin tucks. Let's see if I can see that. Okay, right here. When you're gonna do or plan to do pin tucks in a particular piece of fabric, you do need to add extra fabric because as you fold and tuck, you're gonna lose a little bit. So if your strip needs to be 12 inches, don't just cut 12 and then add pin tucks. You need to add in a little bit of extra to take up for that little bit of fabric that's being caught in inside each pin tuck. The thread that I'm using, that it's called Ceralock, is the new name. It's also was previously referred to as Metroflock. Ceralock. There's Ceraflock. Woolly nylon is out there. That's another one. It's just really, these are a little more challenging to find. I will be carrying some Ceraflock in a variety of colors here shortly in the store. Pin tuck is, we're just using the roll hem stitch to make the pin tuck, okay? Typically a roll hem you're gonna do on the edge of something and then, you know, like a napkin or something along that lines, but we're using the roll hem stitch to make a pin tuck, okay? And then you can do the same with knits, okay? The same thing with knits. The only thing that I would do with a knit for the tuck itself is I would stabilize it with some stabilizer, okay? This here is OESD wash away tape, okay? So this is tape that's gonna wash away when I'm done stitching. I placed it on this, I pre-folded my fabric. I have placed the tape on the same side of the fold for every pin tuck that I would do, okay? And then I'm gonna fold it and I'm gonna sew with the stabilizer up. So when I fold this in half, if I'm gonna sew this one, my stabilizer is on the fabric that's on top, okay? I'm gonna change feet here, just because we're back to the wider fabric. That wash away tape is nice because it's already pre-cut for you and you literally take it and then you, it's like 3/4 of an inch wide, cut what you need and then peel off the paper. Maybe if my fingernails will let me, peel off the paper and then it's sticky on one side, okay? And I use the wash away tape that way when you wash the item, it will be gone forever and you don't have to tear anything out and things along that line. So let's, there's your roll hem on a knit. And you can see by also pre-stabilizing that, you're gonna keep the knit from wanting to do what we call rainbow, where it stretches as it goes into the machine. And so I could, again, fold. Let me get rid of this extra here because that's sticking to the presser foot. Put this underneath the foot here, lined up fold with the guide on the foot. And there's two. Let's see, Miss Joanne, would this look work as the bottom of our pajama, our knit pajama pants if we didn't want a band? Yes, you could hem them with a flat lock. Now, I would suggest when you do a flat lock for something that's eventually going to be sewn in the round, it is easier to flat lock in a flat construction than it is to try to flat lock in the circle. So, for example, on the pants, I would flat lock the pant hem before you sewed it into the leg, okay? And that way it's just easier. You can match it. It's much easier than trying to do this in a circle on a serger, okay? So definitely if you can do flat lock, if you're gonna do flat lock, it's much easier to flat lock in a flat construction and then do your assembly in the round. But yes, you could also use a flat lock to attach the band instead of serging it. You could totally use a flat lock to attach your cuffs to your garment. You'll see it in a lot of like knitwear jackets, especially yoga clothing and things along that lines. You see this type of stuff. But yes, you could totally use this for that purpose. The stabilizer is the tape. So this is the wash away tape, and it is sticky stabilizer, basically cut into strips for you. So yes, it is stabilizer in the tape form, and then when I wash it, that will forever be gone from these seams. Okay, any other questions? Let's see, there, this will be a better, an easier, maybe you can see better. Okay, I know it's white on white, it does not help, but there are pin tucks here. I know. Pin tucks, lace insertion, all that are done with a blind hem foot. Okay, it's much easier to have the guide to follow than it is to try and do it with a regular standard presser foot. Okay. Most the previous Berninas, like my 1150, my 1200, my 1300, if you have a blind stitch foot that came with your machine, it is, should be in your accessory bag if you still know where that's at, especially if you haven't used it. And for my Burnett's, my 450, 460s, I believe they are I know they're add-on feet for those particular machines. Any other questions? Because that's blind stitching with an overlocker. It's not hard. Don't be afraid of your sergers, please. They're wonderful machines. Let's learn how to use them. Let's learn how to thread them. Okay, that's the first thing. And then after you get it threaded, it's a breeze, I promise. And just keep watching, because right now, the fourth Saturday in the month will be a serger technique. So next month on Serger Saturday, we will be learning how to do elastic on a serger and do using the elasticator presser foot. So we're gonna focus on some feet with sergers. because those feet are built and designed to help do a technique easier, just like they are on a sewing machine. All right. Let me make sure I got all the questions answered. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I think so. All right, everybody. Well, make sure, remember, I'm giving you your special weather sewing advisory. That check to make sure that you have all the needles, thread, rotary blades, batting, backing, binding, and a project to hold you over until probably Tuesday here in this area. Fingers crossed. And we're here today until 3. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining me this morning. I hope you have a fabulous Saturday and hope to see you all soon. Bye.